Welcome back to part 2 of the TT podcast with Tim Reeves, and we left the podcast in part 1. If you've not listened to it, make sure you go and check it out. Tim Reeves' debut at the TT in 2008.
That's right.
How old were you back in there, Steve?
Cool. I was in 2008. I was.
It could be a while, so I thought it was going to be a quick question.
30.
Just guess.
30
years old.
You're not 5 years younger than me, Steve. I'm not having that.
While Steve Flay was 30 years old in a dreamland.
I used to deliver papers by the pallet.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, while Steve was 30 years old in his little dream world, Tim was picking up his first ever podium. So, firstly, in terms of getting that podium, I want to know how that felt. But the fact that you were able to get a podium in your first, in your TT debut, which I think was the first person to do that since 1971, something like that, at their debut, get on the podium. You must have known the circuit a lot, or the track a lot. How much work went into learning it before you got there?
In the winter of 2007, I went over probably for 6 or 7 weekends and just drove around in a car. And then for whole of November, December, January and February, so 4 months, I watched an onboard lap that Molly had given me every night before I went to bed. And literally it was 20 minutes before I went to sleep every night for 3 or 4 months. I think when I went to sleep, it was fresh in my head. So it was in there all night. And when I arrived in the Isle of Man, after I did my newcomers lap, I knew exactly where I was going. There wasn't one bit where I was lost. And I think that's the most important thing is not getting lost. If you know where it goes left and right and where the road goes up and down, then it's just a matter of slowly building up to your speed up to go how fast you can. And yeah, I just put in a lot of work and I went back. It got to the end of March and there was one part of the road that I didn't know, and that was from Ginger Hall to Parliament Square. And I literally went back only for a Saturday, got a hire car, jumped in it Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and I went out to Ginger Hall and I drove backwards and forwards to Parliament Square all day until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, until I knew exactly where it was. And I also found that driving backwards on parts of the road that I didn't know, it opened the road up completely different. You could see the exits of corners. So yeah, I literally did that. And when I left, I did one more lap, I think, and I thought, right, I'm ready. I know where I'm going now. I'm not lost.
Was Patrick, because he'd obviously ridden there before, was he a help, or because he's never driven, did you not listen to him?
Patrick didn't come with me at all to do the learning. I just needed, obviously he'd done 2 TT, and he was an experienced passenger. We'd just won the World Championship, so I had no doubt in him whatsoever. So I just needed to do what I needed to do so I knew where it went in my head. I mean, I hadn't planned to come there and set the world on fire and try and win or even get on the podium on first year. I planned to just come and enjoy myself and see where it took us, really.
How difficult compared to short circuit? I know they're different outfits. You know, you've already spoken in part 1 about the long outfits on World Championship and the short outfits, obviously for the TT and obviously in the Formula 2. But how difficult is it to set up a sidecar around a TT course?
So obviously that took me a couple of years to get used to that, for sure, because I was setting it up for the bumpy roads, but it's the wrong way to go, really. You're better off setting it up like you'd race it at Donington Park and then getting it as fast, to turn and go as fast as you can, then get to the Isle of Man and just put up with the bumps, because you need you can set the bike up to be soft and it'll ride the bumps and it'll be great and you'll get a little bit of extra drive here and there. But then the time you lose in all the fast left corners, it didn't weigh up. So you're better off leaving it solid so it turns left good, because obviously with the weight transfer of the bike and where the engine I am, when they don't turn left the same as they turn right, excuse me. So to get one really going fast and to become very fast on a sidecar, you need to be able to get them to turn left. And I also found when I started racing in general, to get them to turn right is a lot easier than it is to get them to turn left. So the fine art of getting fast on a sidecar is to get them to turn left. So I found after 2 or 3 years, I was better off leaving it as if I'd raced on a short circuit and getting used to the bumps. A couple of nights in, you get used to them, and then it would be the way forward.
How much setup is there involved in a sidecar? Because the suspension travel, if we compare it to a motorcycle, is almost non-existent. So beyond that front suspension, which is actually is it a rear shock that's put on the front? It's because it's not forks, is it?
It's got two smaller shocks on either side of the front forks that Maxton. I use particular brand. I use a Maxton. So obviously you've got your compression and rebound and various different springs for the front and rear. You can alter the trail on your front fork, so you can make your bike turn quicker. But obviously it makes it more lively on the bump. So you tend to give less trail for the road, so it's a bit more lazy and it doesn't react so much on the bumps. And then you've got 3 positions on your sidecar wheel on the chassis that I use, which is the LCR, which is the same as most of the front runners use now anyway. You can move that backwards and forwards, and that obviously transfers the weight from the rear to the front. So obviously the further forward you put the sidecar wheel, the more weight on the rear wheel. The further back you have it, the more weight on the front wheel. They're the main things you can adjust. So, but basically, like I said, if you get it to work on a short circuit, and then just once it's done, there's a few bits to refine when you're there, but obviously you can't replicate the TT course anywhere else in the world. So there are a few things that you finely tune. It's mainly getting the bike to be good on corner entry. Really, I find it's the daunting fast corners. Like the top and bottom of the Garrow, the 32nd, the 33rd, the fast full gas left before the mountain mile. It's being able to just keep it flat and just have confidence to turn it in, and that's the feeling that you just fine tune to get once you arrive.
I just want to jump in there and apologise, Tim. I just want to flip in because I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what planet you're on. You make him sound like he's flipping, just going down the breaker's yard and getting an old back shock and sticking it on the front of his flipping 600 sidecar. I just can't get my head around it. He's a professional,
Listen,
they even buy new bits.
No, they don't. They find them in skips.
Brutal.
Steve, we need to get him strapped in the back of one. I've been trying, but I don't think his balls are big enough.
Yeah.
The problem is my balls are too big, if anything.
Who are you kidding?
Right. Firstly, if you take the fairing off of a sidecar, for the layman person, me, to look at it, it looks like there are shocks because they're not forks like you would see on a conventional bike. That's all I was saying. It looks more akin to a rear shock than it does to a pair of forks. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
No, you're right. I'm taking the mickey to a certain degree. It's just the way you.
It's bad enough getting
it's
comments
just the way
from
you
people
said it,
on
to
YouTube.
be quite honest with you. But now, when you walk around, especially at the TT, and the guys most people are working on their own bikes, obviously, their own sidecars. And when the body works off, they look a state of the art. They really do,
amazing.
compared to my earlier days when things were a little bit kind of Heath Robinson.
Agricultural, yeah. They have come on a lot. In the last 10 years, the progression of preparation is, especially, Paul Phillips has had quite a bit to do with that as well. He's been quite strict in making sure that things are prepared properly, and so they should be. It's that the preparation now in the Isle of Man, the bikes are all good. There's no rubbish on the grid. They're all well prepared. Everyone, it's a big thing, isn't it? And you go to the Isle of Man and you race around there, and you always you don't want to hurt yourself, and a lot of that comes from your own preparation. So to give credit to most of the teams nowadays, they are nearly all the bikes really are prepared well.
We already mentioned about Patrick. Obviously, Patrick Farrance. You set off you won the World Championship with him. Obviously, set off your TT story with him to a certain degree. You won your first TT 2013 with Dan Sale. But my question to you is, your brother's a doer as a passenger. Why do you never? And it's difficult to get passengers, as we've seen over the years. Really difficult, especially quality ones. Why has your brother never been poached, either out of retirement or been taken along to the TT with you or with anybody else?
Just because he's obviously, when he stopped, if we hadn't stopped at the end of 2006, we would have carried on. He would have come with me, but then he's not interested. He wouldn't go there with anyone else, and he always said that he would come with me if the opportunity fell in place. But unfortunately, I'd obviously he didn't want to hold me back. There came a point when Patrick stopped, and then I got involved with Dan Sale for the TT. For Tris to have come, I would have lost a year, and at that particular time, I was fighting to win. I wanted to win, and it wasn't selfishly. I didn't want to take a year out to train my brother up to speed. But in hindsight, if I look now, I was stupid because he was capable of doing it, and I should have. If I could have rewound time, I'd have took him back on and would have got him, because I'm sure. Well, like you said, he's a doer, and I know now with experience, knowing what I know, he would have definitely been able to do it. By the time the end of practice week come, he'd have been fine. I mean, just look at Kevin and Ben this year, and what I did with Mark Wilkes in 2007 when Mark had never been there. We were on to win race 2 in 2007 in Mark's first year. I mean, so it proves that if you get the right bloke, yeah. So stupidly, I should have given him the chance. Really, I think it was probably a bit selfish for me at the time, and yeah, I think thinking about it, I should have done it.
What are you saying? You take after your dad?
Yeah, I would have said so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all about me. It's funny that. A few of my friends call me Mr. Me.
Whichever way you cut it, you ended up getting your first victory. Because we didn't really talk about how it felt finish on the podium in your debut year. So, one, how did it feel finishing on the podium in your debut year? But also, how did that compare then to getting your first ever win around the TT course?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to win in my first ever, it wasn't just my first year; it was my first ever race. To stand on the podium in your first ever race, I mean, obviously, it outshone all my expectations, and I don't think anyone else believed it could happen. Realistically, I thought a top 5 or a top 6. When I started the race, we lined up and we'd had a good week, and I thought, yeah, there's a top 5 in here. This is all right. And then to stand on the podium was unreal. It was, I mean, I don't think anyone really believed it, and it was, it was amazing. It really was amazing. I always tell people, I got involved in motorcycle racing. I always wanted to become a world champion. I believe that when I became a world champion, it would give me something. I wanted to. I know it don't sound stupid, but you want a bit of recognition for what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I won the world championship in 2005, and I was really disappointed. I didn't seem to get any recognition for what I'd worked hard to do. It took all my life really to do it, and I never got any recognition for it. And when the day I finished on the podium at the Isle of Man, it was like, whoa, this has opened up so many more doors. All of a sudden, I was on the back page of the Daily Star, the Sun newspaper, Motorcycle News on the phone. It was like, whoa, I thought this was going to happen when I became world champion, but it didn't. And the podium at the TT was a lot more important. It made you realise that in my class of racing, the TT is by far the highest event in its calendar. So, I got the recognition. It gave me another feeling of like what I thought I would get when I became a world champion, and the feeling was amazing to be recognised by not just people within your sport, but outside of your sport. Just the general press, and yeah, it was great. It was amazing. I got so much recognition when I got home locally as well. It just opened, and that's what concreted me to coming back. And I've got to win one of these. I've got to, that's where I've got to be go every year now.
You and I are quite alike, really. I think in competitive terms, you're an aggressive driver, which is obviously you can see on short circuit and at the TT to a certain degree. So my question really, how difficult was it 2008 to go there and race against the clock to a certain degree instead of bumping and barging and giving other people some elbow?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. It was. I found it very hard, and I do. I'm a racer. If the TT had been a mass start, I'd have won a load of them. It's just. I can't. All my years, I've won 8 world championships, and I haven't had that many pole positions. But when it comes to a race, mate, it's a different ball game, isn't it? And I'm sure it's like the 700. That's why I've been successful there, because it's a mass start race. It doesn't matter. I just like to fight and race and get amongst it. And I did find it really hard, and I still do. It's still totally different. Ben, me and Ben have been fierce competitors for 15 years in World Championship level, and he was always amazing at putting in that qualifying. The amount of pole positions he's had have been amazing. So I knew it would only be time before the TT would really suit his way of riding, because he was exceptional at doing single laps on the short circuit as well. So that was somewhere where I was always struggled.
So there's a million different ways I want to go with this, but just go back to 2008. You just got your podium, and then move on to that first win. Like you said, 2008 was phenomenal for you. You started getting recognition where you felt you deserved it from that World Championship. So what did the recognition feel like when you took the top step on the podium, when you won your first TT?
It was the next level again. It was. I didn't think it would. Having that podium at the TT, it was the feeling I got from that was unreal. And then I didn't think. And then obviously you're looking for that all the time, aren't you? After that, and the World Championship doesn't give that. And then when I got the win, I could not believe it. It was emotionally. It was. I was a wreck. I mean, I was screaming. I knew I'd won it. I'd caught Molly on the road, and I knew when Ben went out, and I knew that was it. The only way I wasn't going to win is if I stopped. And we were coming down off the mountain. I just couldn't stop screaming. I had no voice left. When I finally got off the bike, I had no voice left. I was an emotional wreck, and it was amazing to see the people at the side of the road and the wreck. Yeah, every single person is egging you on and cheering you back when you know it's the last half a lap and you've got a 22-second lead or whatever it was, and it's basically in the bag really. Everyone's just going mad, aren't they? The island comes alive, and it's just an absolutely amazing feeling, which you cannot replicate anywhere else in your life. It doesn't matter how successful you are at your sport. I mean, I've won 64 World Championship races. I'm the second highest in that. I've won 8 World Championships, 6 British Championships, won everywhere around the world, in New Zealand, in Australia. None of that gets anywhere near winning the TT. It's absolutely an amazing feeling.
Do you think that's because of, if we go back to part one, you said, when we were talking about tap on the shoulder, going through no man's land, people saying their goodbyes, so you're emotionally charged before you even begin. Then you have this buzz of adrenaline of wrestling that sidecar round, and then coming over the line, you've got emotion on top of that because you've ended up winning the race. You've gone faster, you've pushed harder than anybody else was willing to. So do you think that's why a TT win, or a TT finish in itself, but specifically a TT win, is so emotional for people?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a TT finish on its own, all these guys, they're all heroes, aren't they? Everyone that finishes that race, people don't realise how big a thing it is. But to win, you like you've just said, you line up, and it's like you're saying goodbye to everyone. You set off. The minute you set off, you don't think about anything else in the world. It doesn't matter what's happened in the last 15 minutes or in the last 10 years. You don't think about any of that. But then when I was coming down off the mountain and realised that I'd won, or I was going to win, it just, the emotions took over, and it was like, it was hard, that last mile, I can remember from the Cregner Bar, I can remember it as clear as it was this afternoon. That feeling, it's on my mind. As soon as you mention it, I can remember every feeling. It still gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because you cannot replace it. And I realised I was going to win, and it was something I'd worked hard for. It took me 6 years of going to the Ironman, and finally crossing that line, it was like, whoa, the relief was, it's emotional thinking about it. Whether you sound soft or what, I don't know, but you can't share it with anyone. Well, Steve, you know what it's like. It's just, it's just what you have to try, and that's why I still go back. I still believe that if I had the right equipment and the right day fell in place, and I had a bit of luck, I'd still be strong enough to fight to win. But whether I will or not, I don't know.
100%. Steve, was that the same for you in terms of that emotion, or?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, see, you don't.
Steve, you're hard, mate.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously younger, but it's just, no, seriously.
That's not tear.
It's so true what you say. It's kind of flipping, and I think it's because it's so intense, because it's not. I wouldn't say the TT course is a physical place, but the concentration level is so high. For the race, whether it be however many laps, you don't get a pit stop. It's 3 laps straight through, unlike the solos. But it's just a case of the concentration level is so flipping high. Plus, you're all pumped. You're desperate for a result, and doesn't matter how long you've been waiting, whether it's 1 year or 10 years, it's kind of quite immense. So I think at the end of any race, there's a kind of a big feeling of I don't know what the word is really, or I don't know how to put it. Kind of relief to a certain degree, and coming back down to reality to a certain degree. You're very tired. You're mentally knackered, but to put all those emotions in for winning as well, such an incredible event is just immense.
Yeah, it's nothing else can replace that feeling.
Well, you two have never had a match on Tinder then, have you? I'm telling you, boys, there's no feeling like it.
Unfortunately, Chris, Steve's got a lovely wife and I've got a lovely partner, so we don't need to go on Tinder.
Hey, is it true you're going to be a dad?
I am, mate. 52 years old, eh?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done,
December
mate.
the 17th. She's due, a little girl, yeah.
December? Cool.
December the 17th,
That's going to be a flipping expensive Christmas, mate.
She knows it's not going to get in the way of my racing, no.
First one?
No, I've got a daughter, Maisie, who's 15, who lives with her mother in Ireland.
Yeah, you've been there and done it all already, so you know the drill.
I don't know about that. It's never easy, is it?
Well, that's the beauty of racing, right? You get at some point you get to park your real life and go, sorry, I'm off racing.
That's it.
Yeah. I think that's why most people get into racing, isn't it? Just to get away from
It's
real
a selfish
life.
game, obviously, but it's trying to juggle and do everything, and what you want out of life as well. To a certain
Exactly.
degree,
Right, let's move on and let's fast forward right up to the present day. Mark Wilkes is in the chair. We have got some of the most, again, I don't know if this is just because I'm so heavily involved in it, but one of the most competitive kind of sidecar fields we've got. Obviously, if we look back a few years, we've got Tom and Ben, we've got yourselves, we've got Molly, we've got the Crow brothers coming into it now. It's an exciting time to be part of that, but is it also frustrating having the likes of the Crows come in, do a couple of years, be up to speed, be hitting 120 miles an hour, when you, like you said, on your day with the right equipment, the right conditions, you could still be fighting for podiums, if not wins.
But no, it's not frustrating, is it? I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it? It's really strong. I mean, obviously, I don't go there if I didn't believe that I could fight to be on the podium. I wouldn't be going there. But it's unfortunately with the way the rules are currently written for the sidecar class, it's very hard. It's financially, it's to build a bike to win the race. It's a lot of money. So I believe if the rules were to be altered slightly, it would. I mean, look at this year. You had Ben and Ryan were that step in front of everyone else, and then Pete was struggling this year for some reason. I don't know why, compared to the year before. So he was a little bit off the pace. And then the next group, which included myself, Molly, Lee Crawford, Lewis Blackstock, Alan Founds, and then obviously Todd and Manu. There was hardly anything in it. If you could get the front two back into that group, then you would have eight or nine teams that would be fighting for the front of the grid to win, and that would be amazing. But unfortunately, I don't believe that the rules will change, and they're going to stay as they are. And I don't know if anyone's got the finances to be able to build a bike to match the front two bikes at the moment. It's it's a bit of a grey area at the moment. Obviously, there's been lots of talks with the powers to be with regarding the rules. I've been in a few meetings and discussing things with people, and I don't know what's going to happen with the rules, but it's not easy to. Ryan went away from the TT in 23, and he's come back in 24 and built a bike identical to Ben's, and there you go. He's immediately got the speed and the pace, and he's a talented driver anyway, but he's needed the machinery to do what he's done. I believe if Pete builds a bike like that, if I built a bike like that, if there are many good drivers, Alan, Lewis, and with Todd as well, if we all had the same equipment, you would see a massive shit fight. But unfortunately, finances don't allow it. So I don't know. What I'm trying to say is there are a lot of good blokes that could win, but they need the right equipment to sit on, and obviously finances control that. So unless in my opinion, whether I'll probably get moaned at by a few teams, but if the rules don't get changed, then there won't be any different winners, because you cannot match. I'm sure these guys would all agree with me. Pete, Alan, Todd, myself, Molly would agree that unless we've got the same machinery as what Ryan and Ben have got, you're not going to match them, and that's a fact.
So do you feel like you're fighting for that final podium position with those teams?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it showed this year, the fight, there was 4 or 5 bikes, wasn't there, fighting for the third place? And I mean, it was great. I enjoyed it, but it's not what you want to do, is it? You want to build. I mean, I've priced up to build a new bike, and it's in the excess of £110,000 to build a bike that I believe you need to try and win the TT. And in our sport, there is not the money available to build a bike to that specification unless you're lucky enough to have the backing. And at the moment, I haven't got it, and I don't believe many teams have. So I don't know where. For me, there needs to be a few snippets in the rules to make it more friendly for teams to make it closer racing.
You'd have to chop the wings off the two to bring them back, rather than make it easier for you guys to be able to step up and build a bike there that they've got.
We can't. That's the problem. We can't all go and build a bike because we haven't got the finances. I mean, I'm not willing to put that amount of money aside to build a bike, and I'm sure that there is no one else on the grid that's got that amount of funding. I mean, yeah. So I don't know what we'll do, but I mean, if you put Pete Founds on Ryan or Ben's bike, then you wouldn't see where he went, and that's my opinion. He's a very talented driver in my eyes, and he's capable of being a world champion as well, Pete Founds. If you put him on my long bike and put him in a Grand Prix, he would win, I'm sure. And I think if he turns up at next year's TT with the same equipment as Ben and Ryan have got, then yeah, you better get down the bookies and put some money on him, because they won't see where he went.
You heard it here first, everybody. Listen, Tim, as much as we'd love to extend this conversation, and there's probably another part 3, 4. I always say this, we could talk for hours about it, but we're going to have to wrap. And as usual, we're going to wrap with Steve's Quickfire Questions. Go, Steve.
10 questions, answer one or the other, nothing else. I don't need excuses. Lager or real ale?
Lager.
Blonde or brunette? Be careful.
Oh, blonde. I've got to say blonde.
Yeah.
In the kitchen.
2 strokes or 4 strokes?
2-stroke, absolutely.
I don't know if I'm saying this right. Bitterbollen or fish and chips? Do you know what that is?
Fish and chips. Yeah, of course I know. Fish and chips. Absolutely.
Chris Dunn. Racing Formula 1s or Formula 2s? Long chassis or short chassis?
Long chassis, for sure.
Pineapple or never pineapple on pizza?
Yeah, pineapple on a pizza.
Good lad. Good lad. World Championship or the Isle of Man TT?
Isle of Man TT.
Bray Hill or the Veranda?
Bray Hill.
Jock Taylor or, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Pekka Peverinta.
Oh, mate, Pekka's a real good friend of mine, but Jock Taylor was my hero.
I don't want excuses, one or the other.
Jock Taylor. It's got to be Jock Taylor.
Sorry, Pekka. Last question. Patrick Farrance or Dan Sale?
Oh, mate. I'm sorry, Dan, but Patrick Farrance.
You're already saying that because he's on the telly now.
Patrick was world champion, wasn't he? And he.
No. I don't need any more. Thank you very much.
No,
sorry, Dan.
Farrance, sorry.
Dan, I rate you.
Oh, yeah, I rate Dan. I would have gone with Dan, personally.
Too, mate, yeah.
Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being part of the TT podcast. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, buddy. Good luck with the young'un.
Thank you very much. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, he's going to need some luck with that one, isn't he? Do you know what? We had to end the podcast, otherwise it would have gone on for hours. But we were right at the point where it was just starting to, get a bit juicy about what the future of sidecars is going to look like at the TT. We didn't even really get into the aspects of the what's the right way of saying it? That the sidecars are often the first of the classes to be canned or shunned, cut short when the weather is unpleasant. But what I was saying towards the end there was really interesting about the potential of having so many teams that are so competitive.
Yeah, 100%. And did you know what? The biggest thing I noticed then was how well he spoke, how well Tim spoke of some of the other competitors. Being as competitive as he is, you don't very often hear that, obviously talking about Founsey and how good he would be on the same machinery as the Crows or the Birchalls. Birchall, not Birchalls anymore. And Rousseau, yeah. But, it's interesting on the Outlook, and quite amazing now what it costs to prepare and purchase a new sidecar that's capable of winning.
Yeah.
Incredibly expensive, it really is. And for sure, something needs to be done probably to dacker that down within the regulations over a certain amount of time to bring it back down to a level playing field so that we can see a good half dozen ding-dong going for a TT win.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
And to keep the cost down, of course.
Here's a quick question, and we spoke about it briefly in, I don't know if it was part 1 or part 2, about his brother never really getting to the point of having to go at the TT. Do you think now he sees the likes of the Birchalls doing what they did, the Crows coming through and doing what they did, that there's a bit of, not necessarily resentment, but a bit of, what's the word I'd use? Maybe I would use resentment that he didn't get his brother on board, because there is a connection between brothers that you don't get with anybody else.
Yeah, well, obviously Tristan, he partnered him and rode with him on short circuit when they first kicked off and started and stuff. But yeah, hey, listen, it can't be easy working with Tim purely because he's so competitive and wants the best out of somebody. And he was quite open and spoke about how he fell out with his old man when he wanted to start racing. So if the brother wasn't up to par with Tim's pace, then there would have been aggro there as well. But you just don't know reading between the lines. But I would say there's a little bit of disappointment there, without doubt, that it wasn't a family affair, the TT course, and it would have been lovely to see, of course, two sets of brothers going at it, of course, as we've seen. It's quite common, really, on the sidecars, isn't it, with the Crows and the flipping.
It seems to be the way to win now,
But, hey, listen, he still won a TT with Dan Stale, and he's probably got another one under his belt if he can make it all work and happen.
Exactly. Well, I guess we'll see in the future as to see what happens with Tim Reeves. If you want all the latest news and features, head over to iomttracers.com and check out the TT website. And if you want to check us out over on the socials, across all of them, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, we're at TT Racers Official. Steve, until next time, au revoir.
See you later.
Alligator.